we were, in the end, super impressed and unable to differentiate truly between the Nissan team that didn't get a deal done and the team from the GM Harley-Davidson team that got a deal done that you saw here today.
Well, I first knew I was coming to Youth About Business. I didn't really know what to expect. And then when I got there, it was nothing like I expected.
It's opened my eyes to all of the different career aspects in business. You only hear of the big ones like Chief Executive Officer, CFO, but I know there's so many other now.
These young people are going to end up being our business leaders of the future, and I think it's important that we do everything we can to reduce the skill gap and help them to develop the proper skill sets. We immerse them in this merger acquisition simulation at Youth About Business, and it really gives these young people a chance to start developing the kind of skills that are going to be helpful. They start solving business problems. They start thinking critically very early on.
So how we found that number of 9.8 billion, we compared it to the average of the automobile industry. So we found that there was a maximum that we could spend, which was 19.16 billion.
My daughter had a first-year business class last year, and it didn't touch on any of these items in terms of mergers and acquisitions. When I watched them present that final day, I was really impressed. They spoke fluently using the terminology. They spoke with confidence. The executives didn't cut them any slack with the questions, and they were able to handle those questions. So bringing this into our community, exposing our children to not just other opportunities in business, but just making sure they're prepared for any career, puts them a step ahead of the game.
The first day, you're given your company, you're given your assignment, you're given your role, and for the entire week, you get to play that role. So there is no other program out there that provides the same kind of immersion that this program does. So for the entire week, you actually feel like you're the CEO of GM, and like you're important, like you matter.
There's a pre-assessment and a post-assessment, and there's a camp that they go through, and they learn about all kinds of different topics. And their knowledge of finance and accounting or legal tax is minimal, and it's maybe 20% average test score. And I think it helps these students to really appreciate what an important part finance plays in their future career decisions, and then helps also to connect some terms that they hear in the news from Wall Street, how to value companies and what significant risks are for different transactions.
I started becoming more and more familiar with the terminology, with the information. I started contributing more to my group. I started helping out with different things in the project, and at the end, the presentation, and I was answering questions with very important people, and I was comfortable talking about these topics that I was oblivious to like 5 days before.
And that one of the risks that you highlighted was the debt burden that the combined company would bear going forward, and your offer was 60% cash, and I assumed that most of that was coming through debt.
Knowing GM and its history, debt is really a concern, especially if we're going to acquire a company for a relatively high amount, paying 60% cash. So with that being said, if we look at the industry average for net debt to EBITDA, net debt to assets ratios, we find out that GM is very competitive in those ratios.
So basically, when we're looking at this, we're assuming that the debt is an investment in which we're going to get percentage return on it. So that's going to be an investment over a certain period of time, which is why we didn't disregard it. We took into consideration, but we didn't let it stop us from creating this transaction.
The mentors that came in, the lawyers that came in, all the business people that came in, I spoke with them. They gave me some of their background. It was just really helpful. That is the main thing, the connections and networking that you make.
I don't know if this is a 4th year or 5th year that I've been a judge, but it's amazing how the presentations and the poise keeps getting better and better. And I think as judges, because we hear about how talented the people are in this program, I think the questions are getting harder. Because I think when we started this, we said, well, these are teenagers, you can't be too tough on them. But the questions that we're getting now are the same questions you'd ask people who do this for a living. There's no sort of extra margin for error given to you because you guys are still in high school. So the team that ended up with that one extra vote was the combined GM Harley-Davidson team. So congratulations.
All of the different traits that I've acquired from the program, leadership, having confidence, having presence, it's not just about the business, it's about being able to communicate and everything. So I think that's what I took away from the program.
Unless you have an active parent teaching you about basic banking terms and accounting terms and legal terms or tax terms, you really don't gather that information unless you have an elective in one topic that would introduce you to the subject. And Youth About Business generates that interest, educates the students, and provides a pathway to think about not just finance in the future, but also what it takes as an individual to prepare for the future from a financial perspective.
Really expose them to all the different opportunities in the business field. But what they talk about more is the qualities and characteristics about a good leader. Being on time, being prepared, communications, listening, and these have really transcended over into our personal life, things I've been trying to impress upon them already, so I'm very pleased.